So just let me give a brief introduction of our speaker today. Shri Vasudeva Rao obtained his M.Tech in Computer Science in 1998 from IIT Kanpur, India. After a brief tenure of working as a software professional, he decided to significantly contribute for the cause of humanity under the able leadership and vision of Dr. T.D. Singh, the founder director of Bhaktivedanta Institute. Presently, he is the president of Bhaktivedanta Institute, and for the past 25 years, he has been instrumental in actively fostering dialogue on foundational questions in science. He is also the editor of Bhaktivedanta Institute reputed annual journal Savijanam and travels widely across India and abroad. His deep interest in the foundations of mathematics, fundamentals of computer science and logic, and its relation to nature of reality, as well as ancient Indian texts, led him to interact and meet renowned speakers, scholars worldwide. So with this brief introduction, now I'd like to invite Sri Vasudeva Rao ji. Sir, please.
Okay, thank you, Roshan, for that wonderful introduction, and thanks also to my previous speaker, Luke. It was very wonderful talk, and it will help a great length to my talk because I am not going to cover too many details of the fine tuning, which I am going to also use. And the audience who are posing wonderful questions and participating in this lecture series consistently. Today is fifth day, and online event is not easy to participate. So a big thank you to all the audience who are joining this event. So my topic is, does the universe have a purpose? So from a scientific point of view, it is not a question that has been settled, but this presentation is a journey that such a question to entertain an answer. What would be necessary and sufficient conditions? So that makes the first part of my presentation. So where we present some necessary conditions for a purposeful universe and some sufficient conditions for the purposeful universe to be considered as a scientific hypothesis. And in part two, we will present an Indian traditional model of cosmology and consciousness to draw inspirations for modern cosmology research. So part one. So necessary and sufficient conditions for the purpose. So this will be a comparatively smaller section, and I will be presenting in a summary of the points I would like to make, not in too much technical details, mainly due to the time limitations, that how much time I could dedicate and my own expertise. But this question is very much in my thoughts, so it's an humble attempt to bring to the attention of all of you. So the purpose is classically related to teleology, but it has changed a lot with the scientific advancement. In classical teleology, explanation of phenomena by the final purpose or goal they serve was sufficient. This was a central tenet of Aristotelian physics. But after the scientific revolution, teleology was largely expunged from physics in favor of strict, efficient, and material causation, discarding final causes. And then a concept called teleomy emerged, a modern distinction referring to the appearance of purposefulness that results from unguided mechanistic processes rather than the purpose in the very beginning. So the goal is to examine whether the universe exhibits genuine cosmic teleology rather than mere teleomy. So in this process, the epistemology epistemological considerations are very at the center of the scientific method. It is very much influenced, today's scientific thinking is influenced by the falsifiability proposed by Karl Popper. The criteria is that a theory is only scientific if it belongs to a logical structure capable of describing an empirical observation that contradicts it. He also proposes conjectures and refutations. Scientists should boldly propose theories and subject them to serve critical testing. Theories that survive rigorous attempts to falsify them are said to be corroborated, not confirmed. So applying epistemology to our purpose, quest, a scientific hypothesis of universal purpose cannot simply rationalize existing data. It must theoretically prohibit certain observations and also make formal predictions. Empirical science traditionally explains the mechanics of physical phenomena. But explaining why the fundamental constants of nature possess their specific numerical values was famously described by Richard Feynman as one of the greatest damn mysteries in physics. When fundamental parameters exhibit extreme non-random optimization, investigating the causal origin, why becomes a valid, necessary scientific endeavor. Logic of purpose inference. Our inference has to be best explanation. Inference to the best explanation. Teleological hypothesis must be assessed against competing theories, chance or physical necessity, based on explanatory power, scope, and causal adequacy. Scientific explanations require premises that contain universal laws and are known to be true. Scientific practice generally restricts explanations to natural phenomena, forcing teleological arguments to rely on intrinsic natural laws rather than supernatural intervention. So the necessary conditions for purpose hypothesis. Conditions that must be present to legitimately entertain the hypothesis of a purpose of universe. Their absence would falsify the claim. Number one, the presence of specified highly improbable complexity. And two, theories must stay within standard causal frameworks and yield testable experimental predictions. Three, the rigorous statistical or mathematical exhaustion of unguided mechanistic alternatives. So if these conditions are met, we say that necessary conditions are satisfied. So we take the specified complexity. A universe architecture must exhibit highly improbable configurations tailored strictly to an independently identifiable function. For example, capacity to support observers. Just as DNA functions like a software program containing specified information for life, fundamental physics must exhibit specific informational pathways to indicate purpose. The cosmic fine-tuning problem is one of the areas which can bring the necessary conditions. So, physicist Paul Davies, in his book Cosmic Jackpot, he raised this question: why is the universe just right for life? The observation that roughly 25 fundamental constants exist within infinitesimally narrow parameters. If these values deviated by even a fraction of a percent, the universe would fail to form stars, complex chemistry, macroscopic structures, or life. The purpose implication: the extreme statistical improbability of these conditions implies that the universe is strongly biased against being an unguided accident. The multiverse hypothesis is an alternative provided to avoid the implication of purpose The multiverse proposes an infinite ensemble of parallel universe with randomly varying physical laws. I think this we have heard from other presentations also, but for the continuity of this talk, I will present here. Under the anthropic principle, it is trivial necessity that we observe a life-permitting universe, as observers cannot exist in hostile conditions. The scientific critique is that the multiverse invokes an overabundance of unobservable entities, requires speculative physics, and is widely criticized for lacking strict falsifiability. Then there are Bayesian consideration, like in one of the necessary conditions is to exhaust the unguided mechanistic alternatives, mathematical exhaustion. There is this paper on Bayesian considerations on the multiverse explanation of cosmic fine-tuning. In this, the two hypotheses that the universe is purposeful or came by chance, the multiverse. The two hypotheses, the likelihood ratio is measured using Bayes considerations. I'm not presenting the technical details here. Those who are interested, they can go to this paper. But the summary is that the overall result is that because multiverse hypotheses do not predict the fine-tuning for this universe any better than a single universe hypothesis, the multiverse hypothesis fail as explanations for cosmic fine-tuning. Conversely, the fine-tuning data does not support the multiverse hypothesis, which means that we can continue with the single universe hypothesis. Also, the argument also falls under inverse Gambler's fallacy. A major critique of the multiverse hypothesis is that it commits the inverse Gambler's fallacy. It is logically fallacious to infer the existence of multiple unobserved previous trials simply because an unlikely outcome is observed in the present single trial. The probability of this universe being life permitting by chance is not increased by the existence of other universes because each random event is independent. So this universe probabilistic approach is that because the multiverse fails to increase the predictive probability of our specific data, the fine-tuning data does not actively support the multiverse. And the paradoxical result would be that if the fine-tuning of our universe just happened by chance, but are surprisingly perfect for life, then this suggests purpose, not chance. The presence of fine-tuning provides mathematical evidence favoring the single purposeful universe hypothesis over the multiverse. Then there are also other theories like cosmological natural selection proposed by Simlon. It's called Simlon's theory. A teleonomic attempt to explain fine-tuning without a designer or standard multiverse. The universes reproduce via singularities of black holes, inheriting constants with slight random mutations. It also makes falsifiable predictions over generations. The typical universe will naturally optimize its fundamental parameters to maximize black hole production. But it is not the case in our universe, as refuted by Leonard Susskind. So basically, it is like biological natural selection, where the universe reproduces baby universes through black holes, and it adjusts its universal constants to maximize the black holes. It also suggests that an upper limit on neutron star mass, it is also challenged by observations of stars exceeding 2 solar masses. CNS merely shift the mystery of purpose up one level, a fine-tuned meta-law implying an intelligent cause required to set the evolutionary parameters initially. So therefore, our problem is not solved. Further, we can see from our Professor George F.R. Ellis in one of the interviews with Dr. T.D. Singh, it is published in our Sarigraman journal. I do not see any serious difference in the faith you need to believe in a multiverse and the faith you need to believe in a God who creates it all. Conclusion. The necessary conditions for concluding scientifically that the universe possesses a purpose have arguably already been met in several prominent areas of physics. But it is a contentious point, but we can assume or we can take position based on the data. Though there are opposite views and papers refuting, but this is the direction which we can proceed. The universe exhibits extreme specified complexity, most notably in the precise fine-tuning of fundamental constants required for life. Unguided explanations for this complexity, such as multiverse hypothesis, suffer from profound epistemic and probabilistic deficits, including unfalsifiability and the inverse gambler's fallacy. Furthermore, teleonomic models like cosmological natural selection fail to escape the necessity of fine-tuning due to infinite regress of the meta-law dilemma. Additionally, reductionist materialistic frameworks have proven fundamentally inadequate in explaining the emergence of consciousness, cognition, and the qualitative nature of subjective experience, pointing toward the necessity of intrinsic teleological laws. But these necessary conditions are not sufficient enough to make a strong case for the scientific community. So we look for some sufficient conditions for the purpose hypothesis. Conditions that, if empirically observed and mathematically validated, would reasonably compel the scientific community to consider universal purpose. Requirements: direct, unambiguous evidence of intentionality encoded into fundamental laws, bypassing teleonomic explanations entirely. There are three pathways for this sufficient conditions. One is information theory artifacts, goal-directedness metrics, and directional complexity laws. An artifactual signature. The most direct proof of purpose will be the discovery of an artifact inscribed into the fundamental constants or observable background of reality, like cosmic microwave background. The signature must defy unguided generative mechanisms, display statistical invariance, and be strictly observer independent. Such an artifact would require fine-tuning of the initial Lagrangian prior to the Big Bang, avoiding continuous supernatural intervention. Because the universe we see is, we don't see supernatural innovations in a scientific investigation. So this is one of the requirements. The cosmic microwave background as a universal medium is very interesting. It is like the universal billboard. The relic radiation from the Big Bang fills the observable universe, visible to all advanced technological civilizations. Causal disconnection. Different regions of the cosmic microwave background sky were causally disconnected at recombination. No evolved civilization could coordinate a message across it. It could only be imprinted by an entity present at the creation, entity or agency. So this argument can be further explored in this paper by Su and Z in titled Message in the Sky. In the abstract of this paper is very interesting to note that they state, very surprising, our work does not support the intelligent design movement in any way whatsoever, but asks and attempts to answer the entirely scientific question of what the medium and message might be if there was actually a message. The medium for the message is unique. So they are asking this question with very caution that they are not supporting intelligent design. So this we can see the situation in if we to take position, one has to be very careful. Careful. There are strong prejudice in the scientific research directions as well. And then second sufficient condition could be measuring goal directedness, mathematically quantifying whether the macroscopic evolution of complex physical systems behaves intentionally. Following Daniel Dennett, attributing goals to a system is scientifically justified if doing so uniquely maximizes our ability to predict its behavior. This measuring goal directedness is inherited from artificial intelligence, inverse reinforcement learning, utilizing advanced causal models to test if physical state transitions are actively optimizing a hidden utility function. In AI, it is important to measure goal directedness because it is critical element of many concerns about the harm that could cause from AI. Because suppose if AI develops its own some goal without our notice, then it would be very difficult for us. So they devise a mechanism to find the goal directedness or goal directedness that develops in the AI systems, if it is in the right direction or not, or if such a goal is developed. It is also of philosophical interest as goal directedness is key aspect of agency. So this is then measure to see if the AI systems they develop the aspects of an agency, of their own agency. This method is of great value if it can be applied for quantum mechanics and also our cosmology research, because it can be used in case of both, because it would imply a agency in case of cosmology, a cosmic agency, and in case of quantum mechanics, quantum phenomena, it could imply individual agency or universal agency also. So this method is given in this paper by this group, also from Google Mind, the people are involved. So if we find a way to apply this measure to the cosmos, the phenomena and how the laws are and the cosmos is developing, whether there is any underlying function that is being optimized. Very interesting aspect of this method is that we don't need to know the utility function that it is optimizing, but still it can indicate that the system is optimizing an underlying utility function. Sufficient condition 3, directional complexity. Traditional physics relies on second law of thermodynamics as the arrow of time, increasing entropy. The universal complexity law proposes a non-decreasing time asymmetrical general complexity potential omega for open non-equilibrium systems. The implication is that if physical laws mandate a continuous complexity flux greater than zero, then life is thermodynamically driven inevitably, not a statistical accident. So if the physical laws are mandating a continuous increase of complexity, then it could indicate a thermodynamical inevitability of life. This method can be further studied in this paper by Donglu Shi, appeared in Entropy, and is available at this website address. And further, the limits of mechanistic biology. Thomas Nagel's critique in Mind and Cosmos, philosopher Thomas Nagel argues that materialist neo-Darwinism fundamentally fails to explain the true nature of reality. It has 4 failures. 1, abiogenesis, how first living cell has been generated. Subjective consciousness, how the subjective consciousness arises. Rational abstract thought, how the abstract rational thought has evolved in the humans. And objective moral values. And the hard problem of consciousness, because physics cannot account for qualitative subjective experience, An unguided causal history is mathematically and philosophically incomplete. Nagel rejects traditional theism but posits naturalistic teleology, the existence of fundamental teleological laws intrinsic to the cosmos. The universe is not just pushed by random physical mutations from the past, but is actively pulled toward a telos of cognition and value in the future. Conclusions. The scientific enterprise has not yet satisfied the sufficient conditions required to definitely and empirically conclude that the universe is purposeful. Achieving this momentous paradigm shift requires the successful execution of specific observational and theoretical objectives. Detection of an artifactual signature, quantification of intent using goal directedness, and validation of directional complexity. Further, if one or more of the sufficient conditions are realized, epistemological boundaries can be re-examined to facilitate the possibility of purpose in the universe, which is immanent as well as transcendent to the physical universe. This will also help ongoing consciousness research. So now we'll go to the part 2. This is inspirations from an Indian traditional model of cosmology and consciousness for modern cosmology research. For those who are interested to know the cosmology in Indian tradition, one of the models is Sankhya, and it is the process of how universe comes into existence is very detailed, given in very details in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the different cantos I have given here. It describes how the elements comes into existence, how the consciousness comes into existence, at what point the consciousness is introduced, the time is introduced, and so in this way very interesting. And also in Bhagavad Gita there are certain portions in Bhagavad Gita which talk about the universe, and these books can be found at this website vedabase.io, and those who are interested they can go further. Here I would like to present a quick glimpse into it. And the details will, I think, probably come tomorrow in the talks that are coming tomorrow in Indian knowledge systems. So in the Gita, Lord says that Mahat Brahma is my energy or source that generates everything. I am impregnated with souls, therefore I am the seed-giving father. Then in Srimad Bhagavatam, the process of creation is given. There are 3 things called Pradhana, Prakriti, and Mahatattva. Pradhana is unmanifested and undifferentiated sum of all material elements. So it includes 3 modes that are in balance or in equilibrium. So this is like unmanifested potential energy form of material cosmos or material existence, which is there in the initial form. When this pradhan is agitated by time factor, time energy of the Lord, and the glance of the Lord with the souls, the manifested and undifferentiated sum of all material elements is possible. So the unmanifested energy comes into the form of manifested energy. And by agitation of the modes of nature, the 3 modes go out of the equilibrium, sattva, raja, tama, and then manifested and differentiated sum of all material elements becomes possible. Implications or inspirations for Big Bang. Universe was said to be emerged out of pores of body of Mahavishnu. So therefore, Big Bang-like process not ruled out as universe manifests from the Pradhan, which is the unmanifested form. However, it is mediated through consciousness, a glance of Mahavishnu. Dr. T.D. Singh called it big vision. Both expansion and contraction of universe are possible because in the process of creation, the universe comes into existence from unmanifested potential state of material energy into diversified universe, and after the end of the age of the universe, it is again annihilated back into the same way. Interestingly, the age of universe is comparable to the scientific age of universe, and even older than the scientific age of universe. Observers are fundamental entities injected into the cosmos during initial phases. So this is very interesting. In the Indian cosmological model, they don't simply say that God created, but they give they give very detailed process that at what point the material process of creation, but they are fundamental, but are injected into the cosmos during initial phases and occupy the different species when they are available. But where do they exist before the universe? This is a question that we will explain in the further sections. There are 24 elements, 5 gross elements, 5 subtle elements, 5 working senses, 5 sense organs, and 4 internal subtle elements. So if we simplify it, this is simplified in Bhagavad Gita, we see this, at the bottom, we will see Panch Mahabhutas, earth, water, fire, air, ether. From them the senses are formed. Above the senses there is mind, man. Above the mind there is buddhi, intelligence, and above intelligence there is ahankar, ego, and above it there is the soul or soul possessing consciousness. And in this hierarchy, God actually is in the top of the hierarchy, who even mediates the 3 modes of nature for the manifestation of the universe and sustenance of the universe and dissolution of the universe. And also he gives guidance and company to the spirit soul in the heart. So we take one of the fundamental particles that is among these. We take inspiration from the physics that the fundamental force in physics, they're always associated with the fundamental particle. But there is a possibility that there may be forces other than the 4 forces known in science. It is unreasonable to think that we already know enough about the natural world to be confident about the totality of forces. Michael Pollan's this remark is very important for us because there is always friction to embrace new fundamental shift in the science. The recognition of certain basic impossibilities has laid foundations of some major principles of physics and chemistry. Similarly, recognition of the impossibility of understanding living things in terms of physics and chemistry, far from setting limits to our understanding of life, will guide it in the right direction. Such a demonstration would help to draw a truer image of life and man than that given by the present concepts of biology. So he's encouraging us to not be afraid to embrace fundamental changes, and that will only help science and also our understanding of life. So in the past, we see these impossibilities and the principles they have given rise to. So similarly, impossibility of reduction of life or consciousness to chemistry could give up new principles. One of the principles from Indian knowledge systems about the life is that a pleasure principle, that every person is endeavoring to be happy, every living being is endeavoring to be happy. Even an ant wants to have lasting happiness. Happiness instinct is more fundamental than the survival instinct. So therefore, sometimes we see that some living entities even terminate themselves. So happiness, therefore consciousness, is a fundamental force in the living systems. Therefore, there must be a fundamental particle that is responsible for consciousness. In Vedic tradition, it is called soul or Atma. We can think about it as a quantum particle of consciousness We say quantum because it has definite quantity, particle because it has definite size, and it is also transcendental to this space because it is not made of the elements of this space and time. And it has the properties of being eternity, conscious, being happy. So because happiness is a fundamental property of the soul, or fundamentally preferable state. So therefore it shows up in the life. Consciousness to soul could be similar to what charge is to electron. If we sometimes difficult to understand what is consciousness and soul. That means consciousness is always associated with underlying soul, just like negative charge is always accompanied by an underlying electron. So if you see the ontology in this model, the fundamental particles which we are discussing in physics, they mostly fall in the 5 gross elements area, because these 5 gross elements also include sky, which could indicate the space. That means there are many more fundamental particles to be found in the realm of mind, intelligence, ego. Teleology of Sankhya, understanding the elements by their purpose. So the elements mentioned in the Sankhya like mana, buddhi, and ahankar, mind, intelligence, and ego, these could be understood by their purpose or function rather than their physical properties. So from there, if we understand them, that may help us in devising our physics, because these elements in the level of mind, intelligence, ego, they are all still material, because the initial pradhan, from initial pradhan of unmanifested potential energy, all these have manifested except the soul which has been injected from outside. So therefore, in principle, they're all the same, of the same material nature, but in different subtleties, in varying degrees of subtleties. So by careful experiments or thought experiments, we could either detect, we can devise experiments to detect, or at least we can infer the existence of those entities because they are present in our cells, in our psychological process. So we try to explain this purpose or function of these elements using a video game example, because the same elements come into picture when we play a video game. This is a game. I think you have to must know some base of a boy is trying to run away from the police. He's chasing with the dogs, and on the way he's trying to collect coins and maximize. So I go a little faster because our time is coming to close. When we play a video game, the first thing we do, we have to do in order to play a game is that we have to identify with the character of the boy. Then only we can play this game. Otherwise, very soon we will not be interested. So, in the process of identification, the ahankara, the purpose or the function of the ahankara is facilitating our intention to identify with something else, facilitating the identity change. So false, the name is also given ahankar. Ahankar means aham means I. So therefore, I-ness, or the name is also given like that in the Sankhya, ahankara, that is responsible for identity change, or that which mediates our identity change. Why do we change our identity? Again, it is because of happiness. If though we have so much identity battles, but if we are presented with happiness, we are ready to change our identity. Means we can sacrifice our identity, present identity, in lieu of the happiness and embrace another identity. So the soul accepts the body to change identity so that it can be happy. So the purpose of biodiversity is the happiness and to facilitate the consciousness of the living being or soul in different living species, because the living entities are souls who have different levels of consciousness. They would like to live life in different way. So some would like to fly, some would like to swim, some would like to be vegetarian, some would like to be non-vegetarian, some would like to be peaceful, some would like to be violent, some would like to help others. So in this way, in different varieties of consciousness are facilitated through this biodiversity. The purpose of diversity is to facilitate the conscious levels of living entities and facilitate their happiness. So in the Padma Purana, it even gives the list of the different forms, biodiversity in different forms. The change of identity we not only experience while we play a video game, we also actually experience when we dream. When we dream, actually, we accept a dream body temporarily and we experience the dream world. Buddhi is an intelligent module. It generates algorithms for the things required, and it also stores the algorithms or results of executing algorithms earlier. So that when we change from one body to another, we don't need to carry the local algorithms. For example, how to run in a body of a tiger. So when the tiger is baby, it doesn't know how to walk, so slowly it learns and its intelligence gets fixed at various levels of motors and how to move, how to walk, all these things. Stores, and it also evaluates pros and cons of our intention, and also it gives means to achieve things. In the driving example, Buddhi, we carefully calculate every move when we learn driving. But when we are experienced in driving, we do not calculate much. Buddhi is tuned. At first, a first-time smoker tends to evaluate the consequences. Habitual smoker hardly cares for consequences, even if warned on the cigarette packet itself. Buddhi is tuned wrongly for momentary happiness. It is called polluted intelligence, in the sense that once few times you evaluate your preferences, the Buddhi element in our subtle exist in us that gets tuned to what we prefer. So therefore, it doesn't interfere in between to evaluate, and so therefore the buddhi is said to be uh, wrongly tuned. Then the mind. What is the function of the mind? The function of the mind is to polarize our thinking, because thinking is an aspect of consciousness. Thinking, feeling, willing, they're all functions of consciousness. The mind, the function of the mind is to filter out. Polarize means to filter out the thoughts from other identities so that we can happily enjoy the present identity. Because when we play the video game, we need to be continuously in that identity if we want to enjoy the game. Suppose if our friend sitting next to us, it disturbs us, we don't like it because that disturbs our enjoying the game. So if you want to enjoy the video game, it is necessary that we remain in that identity until we play the game. So therefore, mind is so tuned that whatever identity we are presently situated, the mind brings thoughts in that direction, in that identity. So it is like wearing a red spectacle. If you wear the red spectacle, then we will see everything as red, because it is not that we cannot see every other color, but because the spectacle that we have taken, put on our eyes, it is filtering it out other light. Similarly, like a horse, they are put blinds so that they can only see straight. So therefore, mind does the same thing. It keeps our thoughts channelized to our present identity. So for that, our mind, if we are idle, then it will remind you your activities, past activities, or future possibilities of this life, this present life. So engage your mind, otherwise mind will engage you. So because mind wants to keep you engaged in this, continue in this identity, it will randomly give thoughts, good or bad, if we keep it idle. So therefore, if we engage it, it will be in the right direction. But if we leave it idle, then it will be random or unpredictable. So identity is the basis of our mind polarization. That is how the purpose of the mind is, so that we can be happy. We don't remember about the past life. We don't need to worry about what has happened before, but we can make a fresh start and try again in this life what we want to be. So from this example of video game, we can make some inferences about time and space of this universe based on our Vedic Srimad Bhagavatam cosmology. Either just like this game is actually simulated in the small portion of the screen on this computer, right? In this we see trains, we see uh, boy, everything in this small space. Similarly, this universe is simulated in a larger space. Just like this space is a very small portion of our present space. Similarly, this physical universe, the physical existence, actually not just one universe, there are many universes. This actually occupies a small space in the absolute space and time. So, but this simulation is not like a very virtual, but and not necessarily has to be digital. It could be digital or it could be analog. But as long as you provide me a body where I could interact with it and experience the spectrum of conscious experiences, I will occupy that body. So therefore, whether it is analogous or digital, we don't know, but it could be we can think in the terms of simulation, not exactly like a computer simulation, but something that is realized in this space. And it is said that from absolute space and the spiritual realm, this realm where the material universes are created, it looks like a cloud. Similarly, the time, the computer has its own time or clock, because each and every instruction is mediated through its own time cycle, memory fetching and all this data, memory, writing or arithmetic calculations. They're all sequenced using an internal clock. If we reduce the speed of the clock, the computations, they will go slow. And depending on how we program the display, it can also go slow. So it indicates that just like the computer has its own time derived from this time, similarly, the time which we have here is actually is existing in the absolute time, and it is derived from there. And so there is an absolute time and space before the creation of the material universes.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, you have 2 minutes left.
Okay, let me try. So I skip this. Tomorrow you will learn something about the relativity. Okay, so implications for consciousness. Since it is possible to experience the game world without the player being part of the space of the game space, it is possible for the conscious observer to experience this physical world without physically being part of the space of the manifest physical reality. So when we play the game, we are actually not inside the space of the game. We are actually sitting before the computer, but we are able to experience it, provided if we are given an medium or a channel where we can experience or associate with it. So similarly, the soul can experience this physical universe, visible physical universe, without being physically part of this manifest physical reality. Means if some part of the physical reality is unmanifest, it could still be part of that. Unmanifest in the sense it is not accessible to us right now. Conscious observer could be transcendental to visible space, time. Conscious observer could be transcendental to the visible space, time. So this is called transcendence, means just like we are transcendental to the video game, it is possible that the consciousness is transcendental to the physical world, though still interacting with it. So in such case, the methodological naturalism would be difficult to find it or find it in the lab. We can infer through different means, but maybe a little difficult. So physical world is a biocosmological simulation, not in the way a computer is simulated, but the real matter is used to simulate it. So the purpose of the universe, according to the Sankhya or Vedic model, is to give a habitable place for the observers who like material atmosphere, and to facilitate the material desires of such observers, and to allow attempts of such observers to be happy, and to purify their consciousness by pravritti and the nivritti of material desires. So pravritti means facilitating the desires, and then when they are little bit bored, they want to find something higher. So then they look for some higher spiritual engagement rather than just material indulgence. So the universe is designed to facilitate both, and this is the purpose of the universe. So we need both scientific temper plus ideas from traditional wisdom, because both are useful and important. As Sir Roger Penrose says, perhaps we may never be able to understand the ultimate reality through rigorous scientific approach alone. So therefore, a scientific temper and traditional wisdom ideas, when we put them together and use scientific temper to rationality to understand them and not be fanatic, that will be the best combination. And as my colleague Varun says, can we really afford to live in a universe without purpose and a life without meaning? Thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for your very insightful lecture. And I would like to express my sincere gratitude to you for sharing such profound insights regarding the purpose of the universe and briefly giving the overview from Indian knowledge system. So, we have got some few questions. So let me begin with Professor Lewis from York University. Thank you for this very interesting presentation. If it turns out that the age of the universe is much larger than estimated by current cosmological models, this would provide much more time for physical and conscious structures to fully develop. How would this affect our understanding of the purpose of the universe?
Well, the purpose of the universe from a uh, point of view of Sankhya, it remains the same. But how it would actually uh, affect how the universe is developing, that is, I think, your area very much. But the purpose remains the same. Whether it is maybe it is because we may further the two values may coincide when the more we go further. That is one possibility. And another possibility is that there may be discrepancy in calculating our Vedic time, also possible. There is some discrepancy in calculating the scientific age of the universe is also possible, but it is of the order of 10 to the power of 4 times bigger, as it is mentioned. The purpose still remains the same.
Yeah, next question, please. Yeah, this is question by Pradeep Kumar, Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan. Thank you for the lecture. If the spiriton is eternal and pure consciousness, while the ego is a temporary material construct, what is the exact glue or functional mechanism that allows a non-material entity to become entangled with the material one?
Can you keep the question a little bit time? So, one thing we need to understand is ego is not just a temporary material construct. It is ego identity is already existing with the soul. So ego is not creating a sense of identity. It is not giving sense of identity to the soul. It is only helping to mediate it. So that means when you are situated in your original identity of who you are, that is actually called self-realization. And functional mechanism, how it glue exactly does is not given in the books of the tradition, and but we can understand them only in a functional way right now, and maybe in future in scientific advancement and applying it to our psychological processes, something better may come out in future.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Third question, please. This is question by Ritvik. Can you highlight about the capacity to support observers, which you shown in one of the slides?
It's same like our previous speaker also has spoken on this fine-tuning of the universe, which appears to be finally destined to support us, the conscious living beings or life. So that is the meaning of it. How come that the constants are so fixed that the intelligent life comes? If it is just only a chance, then the appearance of observers like us makes it less improbable that the the fine-tuning of the universe is by chance.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We will take, yeah, one more question is there. So this is question by Pragya. According to Bhagavad Gita and broader Hindu cosmology, there are multiple universes, each governed by its own Brahma and sustained by Vishnu. Given this idea, could it possible that the Atman is not limited to a single universe, but exists as simultaneously across multiple universes? And if so, could our dreams be a form of connection or reflection of experiences from these parallel existences? While there may be no physical evidence for this, is such a possibility conceptually or physically valid, philosophically valid?
Yes, because the experiencer. So first of all, the soul exists only in one of the universes, not simultaneously in two different universes. But depending on our destiny, we could be transported to another universe also in another cycle, or even in this cycle. That I'm not sure, but it is very much possible that we could be part of another universe in the previous existences. And since the experiencer is the same here and there, and we do remember some of the it's possible that sometimes we remember our past experience in the parallel universes. That possibility exists only if the Lord who is in the heart is mentioned, that our memory and remembrance and forgetfulness. If you see the Gita, our remembrance and forgetfulness are mediated by the super soul. So therefore, at present we were made to forget our previous existences for our own good. Because suppose if you remember your past life parents, then the dilemma will arise. Would you like to go to them, or would you like to stay with the present parents? So such complications will arise. So to make our life more simple and happy, the Lord has given us forgetfulness of certain things, not only of past life, but also present life also. Certain things, if you don't forget, we cannot be happy. Sometimes we try to forget unwanted things, but it's not in our hands entirely. There is also a factor of super soul who mediates it. So therefore, the dreams could be one of the possibilities of experiencing our past experiences. For example, you want to be a king or something which you are not able to be, but you have previous experience of being a king. So therefore, Lord could bring that previous experience in the form of dream, so that at least while sleeping in the night, we are happy temporarily. So that possibility exists.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for this answer. So we will take a last question here. This is question by Naveen, Yasuju Naveen from Aizer, Kolkata. Science reduces our existence to temporary, unguided chemical reactions governed by physical laws, while Vedic philosophy elevates us to eternal Atman, participating in a grand cosmic order. If both of these paradigms are ultimately just human construct, one designed to locally organize and manipulate the material, and the other invented to psychologically cope with terrifying prospect of an endless universe, on what grounds should we accept either as the absolute truth? Furthermore, when trying to reconcile the tangible reality of matter with the profound human need for purpose, why should we trust any synthesized perspective, including yours, to tell us what is actually real? So there are two questions, I think.
Okay, ultimately, it is individual preference. See, our theories, what we believe is also governed by what we want to believe. This is also because our theories we postulate there is an element of our preference, what we want to be. So therefore, these different paradigms are given, but ultimately it is up to the individual to evaluate. And there is no absolute proof of either. So therefore, you have to use your own evaluation, your own personal experience, your own psychological process, and your own preference about meaning and purpose in life. Some people don't care if there is a meaning in the life, just live what we like. So this is also our preference. There is a preference is there. But if one is interested, there are different paradigms are presented, and one has to evaluate with the open-mindedness that uh, in the both are not contradicting, but appear to be contradicting at certain points. But if it is a single reality, there may be possibility of synthesis. So because the physical process or the physical laws are not able to fully satisfactorily satisfy our quest to understand our own selves, one is to wait forever that science may solve this, or another is that since our life is short, also evaluate other process. And when you say evaluating the other process, it is not just a theoretical evaluation. One also need to do certain experiments in this line also, just like we do experiments in physics. And there are people who have followed this process and expressed certain spiritual results in the past. So we can also test it and see if those results are coming, if you are interested to investigate in this direction. But otherwise, only on the theoretical level, it is up to individual preference. And if one is open, one may have possibility of a synthesis or understanding the domains where they apply. For example, the moral law or the set consciousness. One thing is that they are material. One thing is to decide that they are material, physical laws, and in future we will find out. Another is that there may be fundamental, another particle like mentioned in the scripture, so that we can take them as a kind of hypothesis or hints, not as absolute in the beginning, but as you experiment yourself, open mind, without prejudice, then definitely we will find an answer.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for addressing these questions. So on behalf,
Thank you very much,
yes,
Roshan, and all the participants for joining this series and this talk. Namaste.
yeah, thank you, sir. I hope it has given all the audience a different perspective regarding our universe. So thank you.